Hello and welcome to Candle and Quill, your go-to channel for all love and lore in fantasy romance books. My name is Kayla, and the reason for this channel and this channel's first video is because I love fantasy romance books, but I haven't really seen many channels that really analyze characters or the romantic relationship between them. And there are some that raise a few questions, and I kind of just wanted to share my opinion on fantasy romance relationships and why, to me, they either make sense or don't. Obviously, this is all opinion, and I very well might be wrong or misreading things, and I think that's okay. It's just, while you're reading, you kind of form your image and your opinion of characters, and sometimes it kind of ruins the book for me in general, seeing a relationship between characters I don't quite understand and that being the whole point of the story. A little bit about me though. My name is Kayla. I am in university and I love fantasy romance books. And the channel's first video is going to be about the Book of Azrael, which I read some time ago, but I've been thinking about the characters in this book for quite a long time, hence the video being, about the Book of Azrael. I kind of just wanted to deep dive into it and, discuss some of the characters and what I think about them and how I see the relationship between Diana and Liam sort of unfolding. I will say, to preface, that if you haven't read this book, you probably should read it first. I'm not really a review channel when it comes to if you should read a book or not. I think a book can surprise you even if it's not your genre. Fantasy romance, urban style was never a genre that I quite pictured liking, and I was correct. Urban fantasy is not my cup of tea. I don't really see cell phones and sci-fi in romance fantasy, but that's totally up to the reader to choose from. I will say that there are some nuances, although maybe not complete spoilers, but some nuances that I will be talking about in this video that if you haven't read it might just ruin the experience of the book for you. So I would suggest clicking off, maybe taking a look at another review for whether or not you should read it first. But to start, I kind of wanted to take a look at Diana. We have this incredibly badass female lead that has a very dirty mouth and a lot of attitude, which is pretty refreshing to see in a main female character, because usually how I've seen them in fantasy romance, as I'm sure many fantasy romance fans would agree, is she's pretty weak and then eventually something so traumatizing happens to her that she becomes badass. We've seen that in Sarah J. Maas books. We've seen that in the Powerless series for some of the more popular ones. There's always like this learning curve for the character, and I get that it's supposed to be like encouraging that young girls who go through, or young people in general who go through difficult things, but they're just stepping into their adult life. This is kind of like you're already in your adult life. You've already seen a bunch of shit, and now you can, you're ready to tackle the world and make new mistakes and learn how to be good again, basically. And Diana's a morally gray female lead, even though I don't really think she's morally gray. I think she's just surviving. I wouldn't say that she's really out there doing bad stuff just because she wants to. Essentially, she's living for her sister, and it's very obvious to me. First and foremost, the relationship between Diana and her sister is a little confusing, to me at least, because I don't really see that great of a connection between them. I don't really see them being super distinct personalities. I don't think that she had anything really interesting about her other than being the polar opposite of Diana, and Diana essentially living and giving up her entire life for Gabby, who, because of Diana and because of the whole situation with Diana, wasn't really living her life anyway, from what it described in the book. And then we meet Liam. And there are some examples where I'm a little confused between the development of their relationship, because on page 272 you have a line that Diana says, "I don't know why I suddenly cared so much, but I did." Okay, so you cared suddenly. You're going from one, leader full of power to another leader full of power. And I get that there's a lot of emotion involved and there's trauma bonding, but you're a warrior. You're a strong female lead who maybe yearns for something genuine and warm, but you have that with your sister. She just doesn't have a personality. Which leads me to my next point. A lot of secondary characters in this book, I don't find they have a personality. There's not really anything memorable about the Hand. about the character who dies early in the beginning, Ezekiel. I believe that's Ezekiel. There's nothing memorable about Gabby. There's hardly anything memorable about Caden's men that Diana is fighting with later on. There's just, I don't really remember much about the secondary characters in this book whatsoever. And when things are like that, you're lacking in the dynamics department, but the relationship between Diana and Liam is progressing so quick. I get that it's a slow burn, but objectively speaking, based on their journey, it's not really much of a slow burn whatsoever in their timeline. It's a little confusing how they start focusing on communication in their relationship when, you know, Diana literally not long ago killed a bunch of people under Liam's watch, and she has to answer for the crimes, but he's falling in love with her anyways, so it's a little confusing, and maybe she's his mate, and maybe she's this, maybe she's that. And oh my god, like suddenly she's sacrificing herself. I can get behind Diana having such a significant character change, because she sees what kind of relationship a man can have with a woman that she never saw with Caden, especially after all the horrible stuff that's happened to her. She's probably never had any kind of emotional independence, never had freedom, always, you know, terrified for her sister, and suddenly comes along a person who doesn't threaten that over her at all, you know, and she can relax and she can see things for how they are, and she's like, oh my goodness, like, you guys treat each other so well. I can get behind that. What I cannot but get behind is Liam hardly having any kind of development, still focusing on his communication, going back and forth between opening up to her and not opening up to her. Like, you're a warrior. I understand that you've gone through some serious stuff, but being a descendant of the characters that you are a descendant of, this is kind of pathetic. I'm sorry. Anyway, those are my 2 cents. The one thing that I do like about this book is that it allows for your imagination to run wild. It's got interesting world building. It's something I haven't seen before in a fantasy romance book. It's not a lot of world building, but my imagination filled up for the parts that were missing, and maybe that's why I say that. And in the back of the book, you have an illustration of what Diana and Liam look like. And to be honest, it's not really what I pictured the characters to be as I was reading it, because Liam is written to be the super tall, dark, and handsome character that everybody fawns over. And I know that Diana is also pretty tall, so the height difference isn't really wrong according to the story, but it's just, it's not really what I pictured them being. But, you know, the other reason for this channel, I kind of wanted to share my imagination of the characters in the book. When you're reading, it's kind of like you're putting down train tracks one at a time, and sometimes my vision of the characters change. So I kind of wanted to take you guys also on a journey of creating the characters in the book as I imagine them. I like sketching portraits. That's exactly what I'm going to be doing for these characters, and I hope you would join me for that. But other than that, a closing statement on this book, I want to say I really did enjoy it. Probably won't be returning to urban fantasy anytime soon. Believe it or not, I haven't even read Crescent City, and that's like a must for fantasy romance. In the meantime, I would like to take you on my drawing journey to take a look at the portraits that I really imagine are part of this book. So we're starting off here on the left with Liam. I gave Liam a lot of soft curves, even though he's portrayed very masculine. I decided to leave a lot of the angles for Caden to give him more of a cruel look. Caden in the book is described as a darker skinned character, so I did my best to sort of outline a lot of the darker features that I believe he has, and I gave Liam a lot of the soft masculine ones to sort of make him look like a safe space emotionally for Diana, which he eventually becomes. And when I draw, I like to go over the same lines a lot of the time, just to give it more of a dynamic look. One of the problems with my drawing style is that I'm self-taught, so I don't really have the professional techniques that you would need to make a picture stand out. But I try to give each character a very distinct look in the way that I think that they are written. And then we start here with Diana. I also gave Diana a lot of softness. I made her hair a lot curlier than it was drawn in the back of the book. And then I start going over the characters with an ink pen just because I want to bring out that contrast and make your faces stand out a little bit more. This is actually a great tool for defining the lines that you find most important in a sketch. I like to keep the pencil under the pen just to see, what I didn't need, what's more of a shadow. I know this might not be what everyone imagines the characters to be, but this is what I saw them as I was reading the book and going through the story. Caden sort of angular, and Liam sort of soft, both are still manly, and Diana sort of angry and still feminine with a ton of cute curls. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys all in the next video.